24 hours ago, we thought we would have this legislation passed and it'd be on its way to the House of Representatives and on its way to the President soon this week for his signature so we could respond to the crisis that we're in. This legislation that you've heard several speeches tonight about is the answer to the crisis. The economic crisis, just like two other pieces of legislation we passed in the last 2 weeks and signed by the President, responded to the public health crisis. America is suffering. I don't have to tell you the stories of personal hardship and the loss, particularly economic, but now real life loss because of this virus. This serious health crisis is quickly becoming a serious economic crisis. Through no fault of their own, Americans have been sidelined to fight the virus, and the economy is unraveling as a result of the public health crisis. Every hour, more people are being laid off. Every hour, more businesses are closing their door. Every hour, families are being forced to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. Without a doubt, this is a crisis. Hundreds of thousands of people this week going to the unemployment office. But you wouldn't know it by watching the Senate Democrats drag their feet on much-needed relief for Americans. Not just for Americans, get the entire economy moving. So how has this evolved to the point that it has now? Last night, number one, and not once today, but twice today, so 3 times. We've tried to get this bill up on the United States Senate floor just for debate. We've been filibustered on procedural votes just to allow us to debate this relief package. It's a package that we've been working on in a bipartisan way for several days now. This sort of activity by the Democrats, senators, is outrageous. They're blocking a bill that includes relief that we all agree is needed for the American people. They say that this wasn't a bipartisan effort. That's what we've heard all day. Really? Well, I've had very good working relationships, very good dialogue, some disagreement, but coming together with my Democrat colleague on the Finance Committee, several of my Democrat colleagues on the Finance Committee, in meetings on Friday, Saturday, to work out a bipartisan bill that we could be voting on now. So they say it wasn't a bipartisan effort, really. Then who were all those people sitting in the same room I was, negotiating around the clock for multiple days? The fact is that we worked with Democrats on this bill, and we worked in good faith together, both sides. And we included many provisions that Democrats wanted because we started with what Republicans thought was a good bill to solve these economic problems. And so we had to change some Republican issues. We had to add some Democrat issues. In fact, they don't want to admit it in the legislation, but many of my colleagues on the other side, just this very day, have come to the Senate floor to brag about the areas where we agree. These are provisions in this bill. But in the same breath, they call this a partisan bill. That makes no sense. Why would they want to say that a bill that we worked in several days, working out differences between Democrats and Republicans, that it's a partisan bill? They also claim that this bill contains so-called corporate bailouts and not enough funding for workers and health care providers. Well, let me say that loaning money to small business and big business, that has to be paid back. In the case of small business under this bill, I have to admit that if they have less than 500 employees and they get benefit from it and they don't lay anybody off, it'll be a forgiven loan. But for really large corporations, let's say like getting the airlines flying again because the public depends on them, because there's millions of jobs connected with the airlines. Giving them loans is a bailout? No, it's not. It's a jobs bill. So those millions of people working for the airlines can continue to work, and the flying public can fly when they want to fly. That's my response to the fact that this is not a corporate bailout like they want you to believe, and no help for individuals. But let's look at the facts for helping individuals. This bill would send $1,200 to almost every American immediately. If it's a family, couples, $2,400. And families would get $500 for each child. And it's meant that this money would be out to these families that need this help just as fast as the IRS can get it out. And it's no different than what we did in 2008 with the Great Recession that we were going into at that particular time. This bill also responds to what Democrats ask us to do: beef up the unemployment insurance program, benefiting those people laid off. Now, all 50 states have a different figure for what unemployment pays unemployed people in that particular state. But whatever that figure is, our bill would add $600 per week for a period of 3 months. And if somebody says, well, that's not long enough, well, if we don't get this economy turned around in 3 months, we're going to be here doing it all again anyway. But beefs up the unemployment by $600 in each of those states on top of what those states are already paying out. So, and it also, in this unemployment parts of this bill, makes it available to more Americans than ever before. Now, I'm chairman of the Finance Committee. This is just the provisions in the Finance Committee bill. There were 3 other bipartisan groups of people working on other parts of the economy to get this bill put together to help unemployed people. Our bill, though, in the Finance Committee also includes assistance for businesses of all sizes. It keeps them afloat so folks have a job to go back to when they come out of this pandemic. So don't try to say that this bill doesn't help workers. The bill also includes about $100 billion for health care workers and helps to speed up delivery of treatments and help to get potential vaccines developed a lot faster. So this bill also helps health professionals, but it helps nobody. Nobody gets any help as long as the Congress sits on its thumb. And that's what we've been doing all day when this bill could have been passed and sent to the House. My colleagues complain that this unprecedented aid package is not sufficient. I don't know what the exact figure is at this point because there's still some negotiations going on, but the last I heard, it was fastly approaching $2 trillion. But somehow that's not enough. They're saying it's not enough help. So while they're saying nobody gets any, it's not enough help, nobody's getting any help. I don't understand it. As I've already alluded to, we passed phase 1 legislation to help 2 weeks ago. We passed phase 2 last week. We're working on phase 3. So if we need more help down the road, we'll have that opportunity when we know for sure what the situation is. We don't have to address for the next 10 years some things in this that they're trying to negotiate now. We can address these problems if this legislation, and we don't get the pandemic under control by then. So there's no excuse for not delivering what we can do this very day. Instead, the Democrats are playing politics while the rest of the country suffers, while there's great anxiety out there, while they're looking to their leaders for help and not getting it. If you don't think this is political, just look at the political wish list that Pelosi has put out. Now, the scholar of the United States Senate, Senator Sass, is going to speak about that, I think, coming up here. And you'll see a picture of this great big bill that she put forward. But just let me name 2 or 3 things that I know about, because I haven't read an 1,100-page bill like he probably has. They want to erase the Postal Service debt. What does that have to do with hundreds of thousands of people going to the unemployment office today? They want to require same-day voter registration. What does voter registration have to do with the crisis of unemployment and the pandemic that we're facing today? They want to saddle the airlines with crippling new emission standards. What does that have to do with the unemployed today, the people that are suffering, the anxiety that's out there that people have because they don't know how bad this situation is and they know they're losing their job? This legislation also wants to resurrect the Green New Deal. At the same time, families are losing their income. My colleagues, now is just not the time for this sort of horseplay. There will be plenty of opportunities to debate these policies later, not when we have a crisis on our hands. In other words, not now. Just a few days ago, our bipartisan talks were going very well. We made incredible progress over the course of a few days that we put this together, so we have a bipartisan bill. So to my Democrat colleagues, please put your swords away. Please focus on the task at hand. Please stop the delaying tactics and the politicking. America needs us to deliver. Now's not the time for more foot dragging and procedural delays.